Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 20 of Grit to Glory Radio. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I will tell you that this one, again, is probably going to be a little bit off the cuff. I had something prepared. I guess I wouldn't say had, I actually have something prepared. However, it just felt like what I'm going to talk about today is actually what was actually supposed to be talked about because I was on my treadmill and I was walking, and I will tell you that I was walking on my treadmill, and it was something that I really didn't feel like getting on today. I have made a commitment behind the scenes, if you will, like a declaration in terms of just really being intentional with aligning with the identity of the woman that really truly like is in alignment with working out every day. She's serious about how she feels. She's serious about being committed to being healthy every day, making healthy choices, having a clear mind, feeling good in her body, right? And so as I was walking on the treadmill today, which as I shared with you a little bit, I begrudgingly get on it, like I'm thinking of all the different things. Okay, I'm human over here. I know I teach about the subconscious mind and we talk about the energetics, and also I'm human. So I'm like, today specifically, I am and have pretty much procrastinated just about everything that I could possibly do because I didn't do what it typically, like I have like these fail proofs in place, which are like, hey, when you get up, have your clothes set out. Okay, put them on. All right, now go into your office. Now get on the walking treadmill, and so on and so forth. However, I did not do that. So I like ignored the fail proofs, right? However, I have, throughout my day, here I am. I'm procrastinating all the things. And then I'm like, okay, it's like where the rubber meets the road. It's like the come to Jesus that you have with yourself. And you're like, okay, it is now time to go in the office and to honor the commitment that you have made to yourself. Okay. So I come in here and I am, pop on the treadmill. I'm getting some exercise in, and I'm listening to personal development. And as I'm walking, it dawns on me because I will tell you, like it's such a minuscule amount that really I'm committing to like the temple that like houses my soul. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like 30 minutes, sometimes I'll, get a wild hair and I'll be like, I believe I can do 45 minutes or an hour. I really want to, I get competitive with myself too because I've got an Apple Watch and I'm going to close all the circles and all the things. So anyway, I'm walking and I'm like, man, every bit of me like has resistance around it. I'm like, I want to get off of this thing. I'm listening to my personal development, which I had already been listening to my personal development early on in the day, where in like my favorite chair that I like to sit at. I like to think of it as like my thinking chair. I sit there, I take notes, I get downloads, different things like that. And earlier on in the day, I'd been listening to this specific personal development that I was taking in, and I had been sitting in that chair. And as I was like, this is just like the thoughts that were going through my head. It's so interesting whenever we become conscious and we start like paying attention to what we're thinking about. And as I'm on the treadmill and I'm walking, I'm like, and listening to personal development, I'm like, you could get off. And I'm like, and then there's this other part of me that's like, and also you need to stay on because this is the commitment that you made yourself. And this is in alignment with the identity that you are stepping into and aligning to. And then it's like this part of which is like this little like argument that I'm having, right? And I might sound crazy, but I'm just being so transparent. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Like you're going to get off the treadmill. You're going to finish this personal development segment that you're going to listen to. So would you rather just be sitting in your chair and going to be listening to it already? Or would you rather listen to it and also honor your commitment to yourself and truly stepping into what this aligned identity is for you? And so from that point, then all of a sudden there was like a mantra that came through my mind from that next point, because of course the answer was yes. Of course the answer was absolutely, I'm already going to be watching this. Why wouldn't I just watch this and also honor my commitment? And it was like this mantra that came through with me where I was like, I'm like behind the scenes, what I'm actually doing is I'm actively aligning to the identity of the woman that cares about her health. That is what I'm doing with each one of these steps. I am actively aligning to the identity of the woman that she is in perfect health, that she has limitless youth, which then kind of hypes me up a little bit because like I've all of a sudden got this mantra, I've got this flow, I'm like, okay, like here we go. And then it got me to thinking a little bit even further about the word alignment, okay, and how often it's like this buzzword that's thrown around in the coaching world, in the personal development world. And if you guys have been hanging out with me at all, I am 100% like, yes, move from alignment. Like, alignment is so important. And I think sometimes, though, we use it as like an excuse to like kind of let us get off the hook, if you know what I'm saying. And I think that sometimes we're like not really being really honest and transparent with ourselves when we say, well, it just doesn't feel alignment because it just like, I don't feel like doing it. Well, the truth is like, depending on which identity, if you will, that I'm speaking from, when I speak about whether I was going to work out today, whether I was going to make good choices today, or the identity, which is, I'm really comfortable in this chair and watching personal development and studying and reading and creating work to put out into the world, and whatever all the different things are that I'm doing throughout the day. One identity, though, says this isn't an alignment. It's not but the reason that it wouldn't be in alignment if I let myself and I bought that would be because I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like it because actually the identity that's sitting in the chair, that's listening to the personal development, that's not honoring the commitment to go get on the treadmill, to do the thing that I'm not really feeling like doing in that moment, that's what's most comfortable for that identity. You see what I'm putting down here? However, the identity in which that it's like the next level identity. It's the next level that says, you know what? We're making a shift here. We're making, actually that old identity is out of alignment whenever you begin to look at the new identity that you're putting on, that's becoming the new normal. And then it gets to scale and scale and scale and so on and so forth, right? So the truth is I could have bought that. I could have said, you know what? It's not in alignment. I don't feel good. I'm going to sit here in this chair and watch this personal development. I can take notes better for my class that I'm signed up for if I'm in this chair. However, that would have been a fallacy. That would have been untruth. That would have not been the actual truth in which that in the higher context of things, in the higher context that I'm holding for my life right now, is that I am a woman that is aligning with the identity that cares about her health, that she's taking it more serious, that she is making herself a priority in terms of health. And, I think what's so interesting is like, it's one of these things that, and even in making this decision, right, that over the last couple of years, I would say, even with so many incredible things, happening in my life, with Grit to Glory and its scaling and serving more clients than ever and all the different components that happen within that, there was still a lot of like behind the scenes personal things, like navigating, my mom's sickness and the things that was going on with her and like just different family dynamics and so on and so forth. And what it really created for me in some of the decisions that I made, okay, from that identity, because it's not an excuse. It's like in hindsight, when you look back, there's different decisions I could have made and that would have still served me in being, and putting priority on my health and putting priority on my fitness and so on and so forth. So it's not like a I want to say like get out of jail free card. I don't know why I'm thinking about Monopoly, but that just came through. It's not one of those things. So it's like, okay, I'm learning the lesson from that. I could have done that. I did not do that. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. However, as I was navigating the last couple of years, if you will, with the navigation of my mom, I will tell you that it was very challenging. And it really created a lot of heaviness within me. And there's no pun intended either when I talk about heaviness. Okay. But what I'm talking about here is almost energetically. Okay. It created a heaviness energetically within me. And within that heaviness, what I've come to know is that heaviness creates resistance. And resistance slows you down. And the only time that really heaviness will really actually serve you is like, for example, like if you'll notice like in a downward spiral, if you're sending something down the hill, right? If you have something that's at the top of the hill, you want to go down the hill. If you're sending it down the hill, heaviness is going to serve a purpose because it's going to take whatever it is that you're sending down that hill, down the hill faster. Okay. And there's so much grace. I do give myself so much grace, and I honestly, there can sometimes be that little part. You guys know that we talk about like parts and protectors and things like that over here in the Grit to Glory world. Um, there would, and sometimes I have to be with that part that wants to judge myself. And also, I think that that's sometimes what gets people stuck is because they try to judge their way out of whatever place that they're in, which then creates more judgment, which then creates more stuckness. And so, really, what it became for me is like this invitation of compassion and love and learning and extracting the lesson from that. And would I have potentially done something a little bit differently? Would I have prioritized my health more in navigating that? Knowing who I am now and like the level in which I'm building, like my disciplines and my mindset and all the different components, she says, yeah, of course. However, I also can look at it and say, you really in that moment, you were doing the best you could. And you did your best. And that's all that's ever really required is your best. However, it's now come this point, and, it's not anything I wouldn't say like, drastic or like I would say life threatening or anything like that. But however, it's come to this point where, in my life, when I assess it and I look at things and I'm like, okay, in different areas, we've got faith, family, fitness, finance, philanthropy, all these different, like these areas that comprise your life. I'm looking at it and I'm like, gosh, fitness, my health, experiencing just different things like, tricky things like where you're just like, whoa, that didn't used to happen like that. Or, so on and so forth, right? And you're just like, okay, so something, I feel like this is getting my attention, and then this is definitely something that has to change. Like, no longer is it acceptable. No longer am I willing to tolerate putting myself last, not prioritizing, there it is, my health, my fitness. I'm not, in fact, I'm doing this for myself, and you will actually benefit from it in a lot of ways. Because whenever we put ourselves and we prioritize ourselves, sometimes it's like this misconception that, if you do that, then, you're selfish, or usually it's selfish, right? That kind of thing. Or we'll tell ourselves this lie or this limiting belief, oh, I just don't have time for that. But the truth is like, even in the prioritization of like your health and your fitness and your food and things like that, I'm going to tell you like, and I have like throughout my life being in the military, different stints in which that I, would challenge myself with food and fitness and my health. I feel that I achieved different levels in which that I felt very optimal. Okay. And then there was just kind of like the journey of the last couple of years and so on and so forth. And so I do have like that memory and that recollection of it, but it's like throughout the experience. And as the heaviness, I just continue to like kind of let that come on. It did create more resistance, and it did begin to like create this like perpetual like cycling of downward as it pertained to that specific area in my life. And so it was like, I almost like was just like ignoring it. You know what I mean? Like you kind of do. And then before you know it, you look up and you go, oh my goodness, this is not where I thought I would be. And why do I feel like this all of a sudden? And then you're like, well, this is why you feel like this all of a sudden. Hello. Right? So I think I'm saying all that to say that it's really the exact opposite of what like I was telling myself was like, I don't have time. I think there was probably a voice, a limiting belief that, if I do this, then I'm being selfish because I have all these other things that, are required of me and my time and my energy and my commitment, and there's just not time for it. And I just decided to just not, graciously and lovingly, and, I appreciate that voice. And then also just being like, okay, we're not going to walk in that anymore. That is in alignment with the identity. And so curious today, and something I would invite you to contemplate, and maybe it is around your health. Maybe this is like, hitting it right on the money for you. But we all have these different areas in which that we are buying into like the old identity and what it says. And we're basing what is alignment based off the old identity versus what the new identity would say. And so I'm so curious, and I want to invite you today in reflection and in contemplation to consider that, like in the different areas. Maybe it's in your business, maybe it's with your family, maybe it's with your friends and your relationships, maybe it's with your fitness, like what I'm talking about today. But to take a moment to do an audit and assessment And you might even use the Breakthrough Challenge workbook for this to be able to work through this. And if you haven't already opted into the Breakthrough Challenge, which you can do in the show notes, we will put it in the show notes for you to be able to simply and easily click that. To receive that free workbook to work through the episodes in the challenge that we are talking about during the challenge, you should definitely do that. However, the invitation is to take a moment of contemplation and to consider, where am I letting myself off the hook? Where am I buying this lie of it's not an alignment? Because maybe it's true if you desire to stay in that same identity and that's where you're at and that's where you're choosing to be. Or is it actually where you're staying at is out of alignment and it's the next level identity that's saying, hey, stretch over here, create some new habits, create some new mantras. Yeah, that old identity is going to try to hang on to you. It's going to try to say, oh no, girl, you could sit in the chair. It won't hurt a thing. Do it tomorrow. And you're going to be able to say, you're going to be able to step into your personal power, because so much of this is about personal power, and it's going to actually benefit you in whatever different area that you're talking about, or, as you're contemplating. Like I said, if it's business, relationships, finances, whatever, fitness, what it does is it begins to build personal power, which is going to then pour over into some of these other buckets, okay? Of whatever it is additionally that you're doing and actively being proactive in your life about. And so that's what I want to invite you to that contemplation, to that thought process of, where am I kind of punking myself a little bit? Because I just really got really vulnerable with you guys, put it all out on the table, and I shared with you like, hey, I was really trying to punk myself with this, but it was really kind of cool if I'm being completely honest with you, how even with all the resistance, I was already on the treadmill, right? I've already got my personal development up on the screen. And here I am getting it. And it's still like, even with that, there was the resistance. Like, you could get off. You could get off of this thing. You just go sit on the chair. You don't want to do this today. You can do it later, whatever it was. And then just like with the continuation of like, actually, that's the old identity. The old identity would have just sat there. The old identity would get off of this treadmill. The old identity, right? And then instead it was like, but see, I'm not that. I'm actively aligning to the identity of the woman that cares about her health. She's in perfect health. She's in limitless youth. And the mantra actually came to me as I was like processing all of this. So I'd be so interested to hear, if you feel called to it, drop me a line, tag me in Instagram stories at Charity Michelle Schaefer. Share with me your takeaways. If you love this podcast, if this feels like something that that someone else needs to hear, I would be so grateful. And thank you so much for sharing it. And if it really, really aligns with you and you absolutely love it, we would love for you to subscribe and give us 5-star reviews. And make sure you tag us in that, and we will put you in a drawing for some Grit to Glory Radio swag. So with that, I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.